Good afternoon, Professor. My name is Peyton Eames. For this oral presentation, I chose the topic of Thomas Jefferson's administration. So this presentation is going to be a quick look into how Jefferson ran the country. We're going to talk about 3 different topics and then go over them all at the end with a nice conclusion. First, we have the election, then Jefferson's ideals and plans, and lastly, how he expanded the nation. The election of 1800 was between Democratic-Republican candidate Thomas Jefferson and Federalist candidate John Adams. It was a nasty battle, and it came down to Alexander Hamilton's impressive persuasive skills that won the battle for his previous enemy, Thomas Jefferson. The candidates. The Democratic-Republican candidates were Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. The Federalist candidates for the president was John Adams, and for the vice president was Charles Pinckney. The winner came down to a tie between Jefferson and Burr, with 73 votes each, and it was a battle between them until Hamilton persuaded them to vote for Jefferson. Their running policies. Jefferson wanted to limit the federal government's power, avoid wars, give the states more power individually, and he wanted the U.S. to have no political alliances. However, Burr was a complete wild card. He had almost no policies and no one knew what he stood for. However, the Federalists didn't want Jefferson in the White House for several reasons, so they voted for Burr. As Lin-Manuel Miranda would say, Burr was a less extreme version of Jefferson. So, the Federalists wanted to do everything they could to prevent Jefferson from getting into the White House, and they even dug into his personal life to prevent him from that. So a few things they brought up were that they claimed that Thomas Jefferson was an atheist. However, he stated himself that he was a deist, which just means that he believed there was a God, but that he created the world and then he just lets us be. Next, the Federalists normally favored England over France, and Jefferson had a lot of ties to France, and he was very passionate about the French, and so the Federalists didn't like that, and they would often bring that up. And lastly, they would bring up his relations with his slave and how he had some children with Sally Hemings. So this is where Hamilton intervenes and stops the Federalists from bashing him and convinces them to vote for Jefferson, and that voting for Burr is going to be a mistake. So after the vote, Jefferson had 8 states and Burr had 6. 2 of them had yet to cast a vote, so it could be a tie. Hamilton jumps in and declares Burr unfit to be president and persuades the Federalists to put their votes on Jefferson. After this, Hamilton's speech wins, and Jefferson is declared the 3rd president of the United States. Second topic are Jefferson's ideals and plans on how he plans to run the nation. So he has 4 goals: physical expansion, reducing the military, reducing the size and power of the federal government, and dealing with foreign nations. So, for physical expansion, Jefferson wanted to expand and explore the continent as much as possible without causing wars. One of the wars he prevented was with England over the Louisiana Purchase. Next, he reduced the military by 4 times, from 10,000 men to 2,500, and he cut down the expenses of the government, since they wouldn't have to pay for all those men anymore. Next, he reduced the size of the government and therefore also reduced its federal power, giving more power to the states, because he feared that a government with extreme power would easily become corrupt. Lastly, dealing with foreign nations, he fought back against pirates that had been raiding American ships and also other countries' ships, and basically each country was having to pay these countries bribes so that they wouldn't raid their ships. But Jefferson didn't like that. He fought back, and although he didn't prevent them from raiding the ships anymore, he did get a lower bribe price than any other nation. A quote from Thomas Jefferson about the government is, "Most bad government has grown out of too much government." And as you can see, that really relates to how he felt about the government having too much power and why he wanted to reduce the size of it. So also during his reign as president, the Judiciary Act of 1802 was passed. Jefferson was angered by Adams' attempt to fill the courts with Federalists, so he minimized the number of federal judgeships. This led to the Marbury versus Madison case, which was a Supreme Court case where James Madison refused to deliver William Marbury's commission to be instated as the new Justice of the Peace. This led to the establishment of judicial review, which is the power to declare a law unconstitutional, which is very important in the future of the nation. The third topic we have is expansion. So the biggest thing that Jefferson did during his time as president was double the size of the nation by purchasing the Louisiana Territory. So originally the Louisiana Territory was owned by France. However, Napoleon did a secret deal with France where he sold it to them, so now the French possess control. During Napoleon's rule, he tried to crush a slave revolt in Santo Domingo, but failed miserably, and Jefferson became concerned that those actions may force America into a war with England, so he offered to buy New Orleans from Napoleon as a way to avoid war. However, Napoleon was super desperate for money, so instead of selling New Orleans to Jefferson for $2 million, he said that he would sell the entire Louisiana Territory for only $15 million. So, of course, he accepted this deal, and in the end, it doubled the size of the United States. Here's a picture, so you can see all this orange right here is the Louisiana Purchase, and this was the current, what they had of the United States. So, it completely doubled the size of the United States. Next in expansion, we have Lewis and Clark's expedition. Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis and William Clark out on a journey across America's uncharted land to journal, study, and report back their discoveries. Although the journey took approximately 2 years, Lewis and Clark made friends with several Native Americans, discovered new lands, and gave hope of future expansion and travel to all the Americans back home. They took this route from St. Louis all the way up and returned. So let's review. We talked about the election. Jefferson overcame hate from the Federalists and beat out Burr and Adams for the spot as the third president of the United States, despite the Federalist attempts to slander his name. Jefferson reduced the size of the military, gave the states more power, expanded and explored the nation, dealt with pirates, and reduced taxation. And also Jefferson not only doubled the size of the United States, but he avoided war, got the Louisiana Territory at a shockingly low price. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation on Jefferson's rule as President of the United States.